Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Today we're going to be looking at one comment from the post where I said, okay, let's settle this, convince me why the GBA Fire Emblem games are good. And I want to just respond to one part of it. Because a lot of you said a lot of the similar things. A lot of you were like, oh, but it looks pretty, which yeah, it looks pretty. I agree with that. There was a lot of, it's simple and easy to get into, which I agree with that. It's simple and easy to get into. And there are even some of you that are straight up admitted, yeah, it's nostalgia. The charm and nostalgia of it bring me back, and I'm okay with that. That's true. All that stuff is great. That's all great. I agree with it, but I don't think that the gameplay and scenarios in that way are interesting. And in particular, I think units all feel the same. That's my thing, right? That's my big problem with the game. And the top rated comment on this community post talks a lot about this, and I want to just kind of go with their counterpoints to what I said and talk about them a little bit. Feel free to respond in the comments and tell me why I'm dumb and wrong. I know that's your favorite thing to do. And yeah, well, let's get started. Before we do, though, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 25,000 subs before the end of the year. If you wouldn't mind subbing, that'd be much appreciated. Also, like the video to help other people find it. Okay. So top rated comment. I hope this is okay that I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I don't want you to think that I'm like leaning into you and saying you're dumb or anything, because I'm not. I just disagree with some of the things you said and I want to talk about it. But this comes from Alex Morrison, and the top paragraph of their comment is really great. Talks a lot about the graphics and being really pretty. Talks about the story being all right, and talks about how modding makes the games more interesting. But that's a whole different topic. I think saying that you can mod a game, or essentially you can get rid of the problems with the game through fan-made tools and hacks, doesn't make the game itself good. But I do understand that is a plus. That is a plus for them, right? That, yeah, you can make the games better through hacking, but that doesn't mean it's a good game, okay? Doesn't mean the base game is better because you can fix its problems with outside resources. Okay, now let's get on to the second paragraph of their comment, which is an edit, which is something they added in, I guess. So one more thing. I see a lot of criticism about the lack of unit uniqueness, and I have to completely disagree. In fact, I feel the opposite. When every character can do pretty much anything, and you can just slap on some abilities on a class, it feels very samey. When the knight is actually a knight, and the mage is a magic user and not an axe-wielding brigand, it takes away. It doesn't. I'm assuming you're saying it doesn't take away from the uniqueness of a character, in your opinion. I think that's what you were trying to say there. I think you just get caught up in your words a little bit. So when every character can pretty much do anything. This is obviously in reference to Three Houses, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Obviously in reference to Three Houses, but I don't think that's necessarily a fair take on Three Houses itself. To say that every character can do pretty much anything is a bit disingenuous. Yeah, with work, any character could probably do anything. You're right. With a lot of work, with a lot of stat boosters, and a lot of time spent in different classes, sure. But to say that, like, I don't know, Lysithea is going to be an incredible frontline tank is a little unfair. Like, sure, you could put her in Fortress Knight and Great Knight, and eventually she would probably be okay at it, but she's not going to be as good at it as Dedue or Ferdinand, right? She's still a mage at heart. And beyond that, statistically, which, again, just saying, like, statistically units are unique is, like, such a small thing to me in Fire Emblem, and that's, like, basically the only thing that makes units unique in in the GBA games. But to say that that's the only thing that makes units unique in Three Houses is super, just like lacks of the whole picture, right? You have combat arts that are unique to characters. You have skills and abilities that are unique to characters, and that does a lot in Three Houses to making units play differently. I made the video about Petra and Leone recently, where Leone plays completely differently to Petra because she has point blank volley, and Petra doesn't. Petra has other things that you want to focus on. So, like, it just makes them different in that way. But to say if a unit like Leone and a unit like Petra were put into GBA Fire Emblem, they would basically be the same. Statistically, they are almost exactly the same character, right? So if you put them into GBA Fire Emblem, they would basically just be the same. And that to me just like screams like uniqueness is not very deep in the GBA games. So you go on to say, when a knight is actually a knight and a mage is a magic user, not an axe-wielding brigand, that makes them feel more unique. While I agree that having distinct roles is a good thing, those distinct roles are super loose. They aren't, like, you don't need to have the super bulky knight in the GBA games to be successful. In fact, the super bulky knight, generally, someone else does their job better. Someone can face tank or dodge tank better than they can tank, right? So, for instance, I think of an example of like Oswin and, like Hector. Oswin and Hector. They're different classes, they use different weapons, but they perform basically the same job, right? They're both high defense, low-ish speed units who can deal some heavy damage as well. And they use axes and lances, which, to be honest, the only difference between axe and lance is like some hit rate and a little bit of might, but they both have a easy access 1-2 range option in most of the GBA games. Therefore, they're the best, right? So if you can use lances or axes, you're good. And if you can't, if you can use magic, you're also up there too. But if you can't use any of those, you're at a major disadvantage with swords and bows. When the only difference between characters is something so variable as stats, it makes it really hard for me to say that they're unique from each other. To look at a more extreme example of that, you have Kent, Sane, and Lowen. Kent, Sane, and Lowen. The only thing separating these three is like slight availability, and then like, I don't know, a few points in defense and speed and strength and skill. Not much to be a major difference, right? They feel so similar. And someone who's played the GBA games like a million times would be like, oh no, in this specific scenario, they do something completely different. But overall, they feel very similar. Another one that I saw brought up was Ellen and Saul from Binding Blade. Ellen is an early game healer. Saul is an early game healer that you get like 4 or 5 chapters later than Ellen. If you're going to try and argue with me that Ellen and Saul act differently or perform differently, other than Saul just being outright better, that's silly. They have the exact same job. They do the exact same thing. Ellen's just going to have lower magic. Saul's just going to be better overall. They do the exact same job. Nothing unique about them. I think you could say a similar thing for Dorothy and Wolt in Binding Blade. What's the difference between Dorothy and Wolt? They're both just crappy archers, right? And there's other examples of this as well. So in the same class, I don't think there's things enough to make units feel different from each other. Even in different classes, units will feel incredibly samey in GBA games in the way that they act and play. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm an idiot who doesn't really know what's going on. But I think there's something to be said for what I'm saying. Yep, something to be said for what I'm saying. That's exactly what I said. What up? I get the GBA games are good, guys. I agree. I think they are good. But I think they're really disappointing, especially coming off the heels of something like FE5, which did so much to make units unique with skills and personal weapons and stuff like that. Unique recruitment stuff. It's just all sorts of fun things like that. FE4 went even farther with has crazy personal weapons and has unique personal skills and things like that. And the fact that those came before the GBA games is kind of sad, as far as the GBA games are concerned, and how samey all the units feel. Now, I will say that FE7 and FE8, for better or for worse, are incredibly good starting points in the series for people who want to get into Fire Emblem. I would say that you don't have to start there. I think you could easily start with Awakening and be good. I think you could start with 3 Houses even and be good. Heck, you could probably start with Fates and be fine. I think Path of Radiance is an incredibly good place to start in Fire Emblem if you want to get into the series. But you can't argue that FE7 and 8 are solid beginner titles. But I think to a guy like me who's played every game in the series at this point and has a lot of hours in Fire Emblem. I think it's a detriment to someone like me, where they're just kind of boring to me. Anyways, this is all super opinion based. If you like these games, that's fine. I'm sorry if I crapped on them a little too hard, but it's just not for me, man. It's not for me. I like my units to be a little more unique. But hey, apparently the units in this game are unique, according to a lot of you, actually. So, yeah, Alex Morrison wasn't the only person with these thoughts and comments. Alex, I'm sorry if I hope I didn't come across mean. I didn't want to. I just disagree with a lot of your points, so I don't want this to come across as like a personal attack or anything. I hope it doesn't. But I think most people are going to side with you in the comments anyways, so that'll be fun. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time.